Okay, hello there guys. Welcome back to another C# tutorial. In the previous C# tutorial we have seen how we can uh, find the location of the maximum number. Uh, I don't think I need to explain how to find the minimum because you just change the sign, so there's no much work that need to go into that. However, we will move to another interesting thing, which is getting a copy of an array. So how do you do that? Well, basically, you need to define another array. So let us write the code and let me explain what's happening here. So basically, the function will return an array of integers. So you would write int square brackets, and this will tell the computer that this function is going to return square brackets. So get copy of array. Nice. Numbers. I'm gonna call this n. Okay. So the first thing we do here is to define the new array. So int new arr equal new int and dot length. Now, what does this statement mean, or what does the computer understand when the computer sees this? Well, the computer understands that it needs to define an array of type integer. This array is called a new arr, okay? And this equals to the following. The computer will allocate an array of integer, okay, and make a new arr point to that array. And the size of this array of integer is the same as n. And the reason we need to do that is because obviously our new array should have enough capacity, or at least equal capacity that's equal to n. In other words, it should be able to store the same amount of numbers, at least the same amount of numbers of n. So this is what it means. Okay, so next what are we gonna do? We are gonna copy the elements one by one. So the first element, the element application 0 will go to the 0th location, the new array. The element application 1 will go to the first location, the new array. The element application 2 will go to the second location, the new array, and so on. So instead of repeating this for thousands of numbers, okay, you could just write for int I equals 0, I smaller than n dot length and I plus plus. Why? Because this process repeats exactly the same. So here new arr of I equals n of I. Okay, and by the end of this loop you will have a copy. So what should you do next? You just return a new arr. It's as simple as that. And this way you can get a copy of your array. Now let us try this out. So int w equal get copy of array v. So in this statement you can see here there's a data type, which means it's an array for w, and here you want to get a copy, and you are passing a parameter that is an array. So far so good. And next we're gonna display the result. So here I'm gonna say print array. This is a function that we did previously in case you forgot, and we will print w. And if everything's fine, we should get exactly the same results. So let's run this out and see what's going on here. And then see 9, 3, 11, 77, 44. And you can see that the code gives us an exact copy of our array. So the copying process worked perfectly. So far so good. Right? Now let us improve this a little bit. What if you want to get a copy of the odd numbers? Okay, so what should you do? Well, we will work on this step by step. So here we're going to say static int get copy of odd. Okay, I'm gonna say int odd equal. Now the first question is, how many odd numbers do you have in your array? The answer is you don't know. Worst case scenario is 0. You have no odd numbers at all. And best case scenario is that all the numbers are odd numbers. So what should you do? Well, basically you assume the maximum possible uh, case, okay? Which means that you pass an array and all the numbers are odd numbers, okay? And if you think about it, it's like let's say a school bus, or for example a group of people want to go on a trip. Let's say the total number uh, uh, 30 person. So basically you would get a bus that will be able to get those at least 30 person. Maybe at the day of the trip 20 only come to that trip, and the bus will only take 20, but it is very possible that all 30 persons or all 30 people will go at that day, so the bus need to be able to now take them all. This is the same here. You need to make the array, you need to make it able to store the same amount of numbers. So here we're going to say the same amount of numbers in n. So here we're going to say new int of n dot length. Okay, so far so good. Next we are gonna loop on the numbers. So int I equals 0, I smaller than n dot length, and I plus a plus. Wonderful. Now in the previous code, which is here, when we got a copy, we were copying the numbers blindly without thinking, right? So here we're gonna think about it a little bit. You don't put numbers in the array odd unless they are actually odd numbers. So you could do this. You could put a condition. So if n of I modulus 2 equals 1. This is the condition for detecting an odd number. If the number modulus 2 is equal to 1, in that case perform the copy operation. So let's say odd of I equals n of I. Okay, so it's almost exactly the same copying process, almost exactly the same code, but we just put or added this if statement. So far so good. What are we gonna do next? We're gonna return odd. Okay, we're gonna return the odd array. So in this code, we're gonna test this code and see how it works. So I'm gonna say get copy of odd, numbers. Now let us try this and see if it works. So I'm gonna say 22, 3, 7. Okay, so now let's see. So the first number, it says 0. This is not odd, but you know, here you will find 22 in the original. But then you have 3, 7, 3, and 0. Okay, let us run this again in order for you to see the pattern here. I'm going to give it an odd number, sorry, even, and now odd number and odd number. So you can see the program ignored all the values and only showed the last two because they are odd values. So what's happening? Why we're getting zeros here? Well, the reason is basically when you create a new array in C#, all the values are set to 0 in that array. Okay, so although you are copying the odd numbers, the zeros for the other cells or other integers will still be there. If we go back to our previous example about the bus and the trip, an empty bus will have all its chairs empty, right? So when 20 people out of 30 comes into that bus and take their seats, only 20 seats will be filled with those people. The rest 10 seats will still be empty. Okay? The only difference between the bus example and this one is that 0 is not empty. An integer cannot be an empty value. Okay? It must have a value. In this case, it is 0. So far, so good. So this is the idea. Now you might be asking, well, what if I want to make an exact copy? In other words, I want the size of the array to be exactly equal to the number of odd elements. Well, in that case, you have to do two things. First, you need to identify how many odd elements are there in n. Why? Because you don't want to assign extra elements in the array. Okay, here we are assigning n elements even if we don't have any odd number at all. So let's see how we could do something that is a little bit different, and we'll improve on that. Okay, so the first thing, instead of storing the values at the ith location, the odd values, we will store them consecutively, one after the other. So, and after that we will improve it a little bit. So we can say static int get copy of odd int 10. And also we can say int odd equals new int and dot length. Now, sorry, this is the second version, right? Okay. So now let me just copy the code in order to make it a little bit more obvious. Yes, okay. So far, there is no difference between the two. They are exactly the same. Now, the problem here we're having is that we are placing the ith element into the ith location. So if the first 3 seats, let's say, okay, or first 3 numbers it does not have odd numbers, the cells will be skipped. It's like you are getting people or the odd people from one bus into another one. Okay, so you want to get those odd people and make them sit in the first seats, right? Obviously, they are not sitting in the first seats in the original bus, but you have to do that in the next one. So what do you do? Well, if you look at this, you can see that I specifies the location of the odd number. Okay, in other words, I specifies the seat. So you can't use I here as well, because this one will increase and scan all the values. Okay, so what do you do? Well, you need to create another number or another variable. So I'm going to say int j equals 0. So j will be pointing to the empty location in the odd array. Or in other words, j will be pointing to the empty seats in the second bus. This is what it means. So here what are we going to do? We're going to say j. Put j over here. Not only that, if you leave j here as it is, j0, and you put the first odd number in the next term, j will still be pointing to 0. So what happens? The second odd number will go into the same cell and overwrite the previous one. It's like another person comes and forces the previous one to leave the seat. You don't want that to happen. So what do? You make j point to the next empty seat, right, or next empty cell. So you would say j equals j plus 1. So if it's pointing to the 0th cell, it will point to the first. If it is pointing to the first, it will point to the second, to the third, and so on. Okay, so let us try this and see what's happening. So instead of get copy of odd, we are going to say get copy of odd 2, right? So save this and run. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see now 1, 3, and 5 are stored, you know, in the array, right? So you can see 2 is missing, but there is no 0 in its location. Instead, you'll find in the next available odd number, which is 3, right? And 4 is missing, and instead of 4, you'll find the next odd number, right, which is 5. In other words, the locations are occupied in sequence. Okay. So, and the next example, what are we going to do? We want to get rid of all the extra empty cells. So to do that, we need to find how many odd elements are available, and then we will copy or allocate enough cells based on that. So in order to do that, we will copy this function and put number 3 here. Okay, so this is the third version. So now instead of running the code right away, we will do a scan. So this is going to be a little bit slower code, but it will assign exactly what's needed in terms of memory storage. So I'm going to say int count equals 0 for int I equals 0 smaller than n dot length and I plus plus. And next we will check if n of I modulus 2 equals 1. In that case, we will say count plus a plus. So here count will be used to find out or remember how many odd elements are there in the array, and we will use count over here. Okay, so if we have 3 odd numbers, we will only allocate 3 values. Okay, so let's try this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we forgot to call the function, the third. So come over here, change this to 3 on the code, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can see now we get an array that contains only 3 numbers because we have 3 odd values, and only the odd numbers are stored in there. If we try this again, we're going to say 2, 1, 3, and 8, 8. You can see now the array contains the 2 odd numbers stored in there. Okay, so as you have seen in this example, we made a little bit of a progress. First we learned how to copy an array, next how to store the odd numbers, okay, and then we improved on that and performed an allocation based on what we need. Okay, it's like we scanned all the passengers or the people who want to go on a trip, and then we ordered the bus and put those people into the bus. Okay, because we don't know, maybe only 5 people, so we get a small bus. If we have too many people, we get a larger bus. So this is what we have done here. Okay, so I hope you'll find this useful. uh, Thanks for watching and have a nice day.